2018 regular meeting of the Clark County Board of Education. We're certainly glad to have everybody here. It's a great crowd, and we will start by rising and having a moment of silence. Then if you all would join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Nancy, note we started at 6:31. I have the sheet of sign-ins for folks who would like to address the board under the public comments, but I might have got this 2 minutes early. There's two names on here. Did anyone else need to sign in on this? You're around the back if they do. Okay. All right. The first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Any issues with the agenda, fellow board members?
I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Okay. Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
By Mrs. Six. Second by Mr. Peridot. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Second item is the approval of the minutes for June 26th, July 17th, July 31, and August 7th. There's 4 of them on there. I don't think everybody was able to attend all of them. Who do we need to exclude from one meeting?
I was not present at the July 31st meeting.
Nor was I.
All righty. How about the August 7th meeting?
Was not at that one. It's a regular meeting, and
I wasn't here on 26th and 17th regular. June 26th,
Okay.
July 17th.
actually I was at the 20 meeting on the 26th. I was late, so.
And the meeting on the 17th?
Let's see. 17th was a regular meeting, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So
It's got
perhaps
the-
we could take it in 2 lumps. We're all 4 members except for Mr. Peridot here on June 26th and July 17th. Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any concerns with the wording of the minutes as are in the packet for June 26th and July 17th? If there's not, then it might be appropriate to have a motion to approve the minutes for those 2 meeting dates.
I move that we approve the minutes of the June 26, 2018 special meeting and the July 17, 2018 regular meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion by Ms. Hicks, second by Dr. Kudak. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that motion passes 4-0. Then on the July the 31st meeting, Ms. Six, Dr. Kudak were not able to attend that individual meeting. So of the 3 of us that were at that meeting, do I have a motion to approve the minutes for the July 31st meeting?
I move to approve July 31st, 2018 special meeting.
Okay, motion by Mr. Peridot,
Second.
second by Ms. Ritchie. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. That motion passes 3-0. And the August the 7th meeting, Dr. Kudak, you were not able to join us, so.
I was not there.
Oh, I'm sorry. And Ms. Ritchie was not there. So the 3 of us that were at that meeting, any concerns about whether the minutes are written in the packet?
Move to approve August 7, 2018 special meeting.
All right.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Peridot, second by Mrs. Six. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes 3-0. Okay. Item number 3, adoption of resolution honoring the life of Mr. Henry Lee Bussey Rosenthal Jr. and his service to the Clark County School District.
Judy, would you like to do this, since it was my idea, but you wrote it?
Yeah,
Well, I had the idea too. I sent
Okay,
it to
I will defer to you. Because you spend more, I only spent 8 years with Bussy, you spent a lot more time than that, so
Okay, I would be
I
honored.
think you should have the honor.
A resolution on the life and service of Henry Buzzy Rosenthal. Whereas Henry Buzzy Rosenthal of Winchester, Kentucky passed away on August 8, 2018. Whereas Mr. Rosenthal was a highly respected member of the community of Winchester and Clark County, Kentucky, who served as the school board attorney for the Clark County Board of Education for 35 years. And whereas Mr. Rosenthal was a patient and knowledgeable advocate for the betterment of his community and the school district. And whereas in his role as a community advocate, Mr. Rosenthal practiced law in Winchester, Kentucky for 48 years, represented the Planning and Zoning Board, served on the Clark County Public Library Board, and was instrumental in building the new Clark County Public Library. And whereas in his role as attorney and advisor to the Clark County Board of Education from 1980 until 2015, Mr. Rosenthal provided invaluable strength to the district through his advice, knowledge, support, and friendship. And now therefore be it resolved that the Clark County Board of Education, Winchester, Clark County, Kentucky, expresses profound sympathy upon the passing of Mr. Rosenthal and extends heartfelt condolences to his family, friends, and to all those whose lives he touched and made better. Affirms the significant role of Mr. Rosenthal in the success of the schools in Winchester and Clark County. Recognizes the vast amount of institutional knowledge Mr. Rosenthal possessed and his ability to impart his wisdom to individual board members and to the entire board. Celebrates the life and legacy of Mr. Rosenthal and his calming demeanor, his values of friendship, his fair dealings, and his respect for all people. When the Clark County Board of Education adjourns this day, it does so in honor and loving memory of Buzzy. This resolution is presented this 21st day of August in the year 2018 at Winchester, Clark County, Kentucky. A copy of this resolution will be presented to the family of Mr. Rosenthal, and a copy will be filed with the minutes of the August 21st, 2018 Clark County Public Schools Board meeting. To be signed by Scott Heisel, Gordon Peridot, Ashley Ritchie, Dr. Michael Kudak, Judy Hicks, and Paul Christie, Superintendent.
very good, Mrs. Hicks. Mr. Rosenthal had quite an impact on the school system and really the entire community of Clark County. And we're very thankful to have known him.
Even though I was at 3 board meetings before I heard him talk. He was the quiet guy at the end of the table.
Prior to being on this side, I was at board meetings and I heard him talk.
Yes, he did. So, but I personally appreciate his wisdom, and I think he just had a lot of institutional knowledge, which we're really going to severely miss.
And his love of UK basketball.
Yes, I'm not going to hear any more Adolph Rupp stories at board meetings now.
And his love.
Unless you have any,
antiques.
William.
And he was such a good storyteller and conversationalist.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, he was a good friend, good friend.
Well, I think a motion would be in order to adopt this resolution. And is that something we can simply do by consensus?
I'd like that.
Okay with you all? All right. Well, we're all in agreement to adopt this resolution by consensus. Then we will declare it hereby adopted by this board and sign it accordingly and pass it to his family with much thanks.
Copies in here for everybody to sign before you leave.
Well, on a happier note, Let's do student and staff recognition. That's next on the agenda.
We have no student or staff recognition tonight. We'll get back onto those. The kids are just getting back into school. We'll get on those next month.
Did you open all your schools this week, or last week, or fewer schools than for that? I would like to recognize Mr. Christie for that excellent work and his staff.
And about 600 teachers and 60 bus drivers,
Well,
60 or 80 cooks.
well, let's just go ahead and do a round of applause for everybody that was instrumental in getting the school system open. All righty, public comments. We have two folks that have signed up for public comments, and I just want to note that our public comments are per board policy 01.421, and it emphasizes what can and cannot be discussed during these public comments. So it looks like the second one says M. Rose, and I can't read the first one. So if those two folks would like to come up and indicate what the topic is, and we'll make sure that it's compliant with policy, because we don't want to get in trouble with our board attorney on that. What is the topic, gentlemen?
My son was belittled by a teacher.
Okay. Well, I'll be honest, I heard something about this just prior to I came in. That's why I wanted to check on this. It says right here, the board is not involved in the hiring, firing, or disciplining of district personnel. Addressing personnel or confidentiality issues cannot be permitted in open session. So unfortunately, that topic is something that, as a policy-making board, is not something that we permit to be a permitted part of a public
But
conference.
it's okay for to permit a teacher to talk to my son. Send a son.
Okay.
That's very.
If you missed it at 6.
All righty.
Because it's already been shown.
Item number 4, superintendent's report. State and district updates, Mr. Paul Christie.
Hey, I think you covered the opening pretty good there. And in addition to all those folks, we had some contractors that had a lot to do with getting the schools opened on time. We had a lot of running work that had to be done that last week and a half. But they did a good job and everything's up and functioning. We're still working out some of the bugs. Anytime you put new systems in buildings, it takes a few days to get everything worked out. We're continuing to work for that and hope to get that resolved here shortly. The Clark County Migrant Program is continuing to work with families and programs and students in order to recruit as many eligible youth as possible. In the special ed department, the district collaborated with the CKEC, the Central Kentucky Educational Cooperative, for professional development opportunities for special educators and related service personnel on guided reading instruction and IEP development over the summer on all their updates. The Safe Crisis Management Training has taken place for all of our teachers and those folks in each of the buildings. They were trained by district, they were district trainers that did the training for that for this year and for all the 4 teams in all the buildings. Our KDE Title I consultant came and visited us right at the end of the summer for a ride along on our new book bus that we had go out. And she also visited some of the sites that we're doing with our summer feeding program with the van that we take out into the community. And she did an article that you can check out in the July issue of Kentucky Teacher, where she highlighted the highlights about that trip. Monthly curriculum instruction principal meetings have been scheduled. As a matter of fact, we're starting the first one in the morning. That'll be our first one for this year. That takes place in the morning. All scheduled summer PD associated with the Striving Readers program grant that we got. Those have been successfully completed and follow-up dates are now in place and will be beginning soon. You'll find an addition on the agenda starting tonight on the consent agenda item. There's each month will be the KDE PowerPoint with the latest updates that you all might want to see. That's the easiest way I saw to get those to you. It's coming from the it just comes to the superintendent and to the DACs in the district, so I'm including those on your monthly board meeting so you can read those from the commissioner. MAP testing dates are scheduled for the entire year. You know, this year MAP testing will be, in addition to the K-8 that we've been doing, they'll also be testing all 9th and 10th graders this year too. So we've expanded that. The state school report card is going to have a new look this year. They've contracted with a new company. We've not seen all of that yet, so we'll be getting to look at it at the same time, pretty much as you all do. The homecoming parade is tentatively scheduled for October the 4th at 6:30 downtown. Last year we did one, it was very successful, and already we have more people that are already signing up for it than what we had in it last year, so I think that's going to grow to, and become an annual thing, a successful annual event. Safe school training has been completed at all the schools in the district. The only place we have left to do, and we'll get on that as soon as we come back from the Labor Day weekend, we have not been in the board office yet. We're going to do a safe schools training here in the board office for all employees here too. I'll open that one up. You're certainly welcome to sit in on that and be a part of that if you wish to come in for that. We have it scheduled. I'll let you know as soon as we get that scheduled. Quality control of the student accountability listings has been, the student listings, that was completed here last week. There is no date this time. They've not set the date on the release from the test data yet for us. All the information that was sent to us, we've gone through it, and it's been sent back to KD, and it's up to them now to go through it, finalize everything, and they'll release it from there. I can tell you that this year, due to increased enrollments in these particular areas, we're going to have to hire 3 drug teachers this year. If you can recall, we had 5, I think, last year. This year we've got 3. Contrite, 1st grade. Justice, 2nd grade. Strode, 4th grade. So that's the 3 areas that we'll be, we'll have started to advertise tomorrow, and we'll get on that as quickly as possible. So hopefully within the next few days, we'll have somebody in place. At this point in the time in the school year, the state, KD, will waive the advertising time to get somebody here as quick as we possibly can. I don't know if you saw on the news earlier tonight, the state board did vote to do away with the master's degree requirement for teachers. So teachers at this point are no longer required to have a master's degree. So that's, and the last thing I want to talk about is the breakfast participation. Meals at the school is going great. Just some numbers to look at. District-wide breakfast participation last year after the 5th day was 2,056 average breakfast meals per day in the district, and this year on day 5 is 3,035. That's a huge growth. So when we, even from there, we anticipate that these numbers will continue to grow because just 5 days in, we're getting programs. Becky's working hard with the schools, and all the principals have been great, working with them, seeing that every child has access to breakfast before they stop serving. And then their lunches are also, that also helps the lunch program too. So congratulations to all those guys. That's all I have.
Great, thank you very much. Item number 5 on the agenda is Partners in Education Annual Report. Mr. Greg Yates.
Excuse me, before he starts, if we're taking action on this, I probably need to recuse myself as I have a family member on that board.
I'm also on that board.
Yeah.
I'm not sure on item 5 that we'll be taking any action, will we? I think item 5. This was
Okay.
I think it's just a report.
Just a,
Later
Okay,
on,
just the
there's
report.
another topic item which
Okay.
potentially recusing might be in order.
Okay. So this report won't include that.
So,
Request. This is just a report.
Again, to make, yeah,
Okay.
again, to make sure we're staying within the lines, because, policies, will apply to everybody. The topic of yours should be annual report. No, can't talk about money or complain about certain board members that might be troublesome.
Okay, I can do that. All right, well, good evening. I want to thank you for letting me take a few minutes to give you an update on how much Partners in Education has grown this past year. First, I want to thank all the principals that are here for their continued support for our program. They have been very helpful this last 4 years in my case. And then next, I want to introduce to my PI board, some of which are here tonight. Some of them couldn't make it, but I wanted y'all to understand the variety of industry that we cover on my board. I got Ken Hogan, who's from the hospital. I got Kathy Howard, who's a retired principal, as y'all are aware. Miss Cindy Banks.
If they're here, if y'all just
Sorry.
raise your hand.
There's Ken Hogan, I'm sorry. Miss Cindy Banks, chairman, or director of the Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Greg Holland, of course, who you know. Miss Cora Hefner, retired from the school system. Co Sockers, who works at Central Bank Investments. Forrest Hine, minister from Christview Christian Church. Stephanie Salton from Winfirst Bank. Dina Graham, she's an FRC for preschool. Roger Croucher, who works from Catalent. Mr. Scott Heisel, you don't know him. Bryce DeHart, who also works at Catalent. Paige Barhorse, she's a lawyer for Fugit Law Firm. She's not here tonight. Erica Parks, she works at Central Bank. And Julianne Jones-Irwin, my newest member of my board, who works for People's Exchange Bank. I wanted y'all, like I said, to have a feel for who all was supporting this program every month. At this time, I'd like for you to look at the handout I've gave y'all earlier. I put it on your place, or where I did.
It's right here.
Yes, ma'am, or yes, sir. And when you look at these two columns, what's not on yours that I have to start with is FY17, my position was a part-time position. All of FY18, I was in a full-time position. So understand that when you see this, how much this program has grown. So from school year 17 to 18, we added 6 new partners. So we ended the school year with 22 business and community partners. I will tell you that those new partners were Neely and Wade Insurance, Williams Agency, Members Heritage Credit Union, the Roland Arts Center, Amazon Customer Service Center, and the Winchester Kiwanis Club. If you want to know who all 22 are, I'll be glad to tell you. Our volunteers, which I'm most proud of this number, it literally doubled. It went from 58 to 119. My goal for this year is to get to 175, and I think we can do it. Our volunteer hours obviously more than doubled to 2725 when you have that many more volunteers. As far as the number of students impacted, it more than doubled. We impacted 2,300 students in the school system in the school year. Our volunteer value, as far as a number value, and I base this on $24 an hour. I looked it up online, that a volunteer is worth to an organization. So we felt like we contributed over $65,000 in free tutoring service, if you will, to the school system. My PI board also volunteered a lot more. They attended, if you don't know this, they go to all the school open houses to try to recruit volunteers. And we have one fundraiser a year at the Craft Nook Open House. They were at the Chili Cook-Off. I have 2 committees that meet regularly. So they're very involved in this program. We added 4 new corporate sponsors this past year for a total of 13. We added Murray Petrie CPA, People's Exchange Bank, the Members Heritage Credit Union, and the school system. For whatever reason, we just never thought to include them, but it's sort of a no-brainer. You give us free room and board, plus you give us money every year. So we felt like we ought to include them, and you'll be in the next newsletter we publish. It'll be in there. Our corporate sponsor donations increased. Some of that was adding these new sponsors, but also some of it, in the case of both Rotary Winchester, Rotary Club and Kiwanis Club, and Catalent and the hospital, they greatly increased the amount of dollars that they donated to our program on a yearly basis. We raised that number, you see the $27,000 last year during the Good Giving Challenge, and I'm gonna brag a little on that. There were 40 small nonprofits in the Good Giving Challenge last year. We were number 3 in the amount of money we raised. And that's in 17 counties. And this other one really junk, and a lot of this has to do with Catalent. But our partners donated directly to the schools. Examples would be People's Exchange Bank 1 month said, okay, all employees, you get to pay $5 if you want to wear blue jeans on Friday, and they presented a check for $800 and some odd dollars to contract to buy these books for the summer reading program. Winfirst Bank 2 years ago paid for a cupcake truck to be there on one of the last days of school. This year there was no cupcake truck, so she had to go to Walmart and buy I don't know how many hundred cupcakes as an incentive for the students. Catalent, as I mentioned, they gave 3, I believe it was, wipe erase boards that ended up being like $7,000 that they donated to schools this past year. So that's $23,000 in free stuff that came back to our schools. I could go on and on with those examples. The bug number will probably always stay about the same. I think our population of third grade students will constantly stay the same. If you're not familiar with that, really quick, PI in conjunction with the Kiwanis Club has a program called BUG, which stands for Bringing Up Grades. We go into the third grade classes. I'll be going in here in a few weeks to all the third grade classes, and we, because that's the first year, as you're aware, that they get a letter grade. So we try to give them incentives to raise a letter grade. So we give a reading bug at the end of the 9 weeks, and we give a regular bug for any grade, and then we have a super bug, and that's for people like Scott, maybe who was a straight A student, and he's nice enough to help 2 or 3 of his classmates, and the teacher can verify that, and they become a super bug. I'm sorry, that would have been Dr. Kudak.
No.
Our Experts for Education program, we feel like impacted over 500 students. That's where we have people, like I'll give an example last year, and I wish I can remember the lady's name, but there was a teacher at the high school. In fact, my son was in her class as a freshman, and she was teaching, or they was reading a book about a minor who got caught in a legal situation. So he was in prison waiting to go through the process through court. And he in the end he did get away from it, he didn't have to go to jail. But my point is, the teacher wanted to have someone come in and talk about the judicial system. So through Experts for Education, we go out and find people. So I got the county attorney. He went and spent a whole day talking to like 5 classes about the judicial system. Dr. Beth Griffith has done it before as part of Experts, going in and talk to students about at 7th or 8th grade science, why they might want to get to really understand science, because if they someday want to be a doctor, here's how it sort of equates. And it really sometimes does make that light bulb go on, just according to some of the teachers. Our Bucks for Books, that's our 2nd year we've done that. We got a grant from United Way for $1,850, and my pie board threw in $150 to make it an even $2,000. And we divided that amongst the 4 elementary schools and Baker Intermediate. Basically, we give the money to the FRCs. They discreetly pick the students that they know cannot afford to buy a book during the book fair in the spring, and they give them a voucher so they can at least go in there and buy a book, and it didn't cost me anything. Our volunteer breakfast is the 2nd year we've done that. It was hosted at Baker Intermediate. Didn't cost me anything because Win First Bank and Williams Agency sponsored it for us. But we had over 75 volunteers there. Out of our 119 came to be honored, and we plan on making that an annual event. Our co-op students at Ligon and Platt increased from 3 to 11, and I know they've been chomping at the bit, Todd, to do even more this year, I think, and I think they will if we can make it work. And lastly, working with Kiwanis again, we started 3 youth services clubs, K-Kids at Justice, a Builders Club at Campbell, and a Key Club at the high school, and this year we're going to start a couple of more. So I know that was a lot of information, but I wanted you to see that as how much this program has grown in the last year. I want to tell you about a new program we're adding. I just had a meeting this morning with Ms. Jacobs at Baker to talk about it, but we're going to have a new program at the preschool and at Baker we're calling it BAM. This was Scott's idea. We're plagiarizing from something that Scott County, or that Fayette County did. But it's called BAM. We come up with a name, and it stands for Be a Man. And the intent is going to be to have men, and right now I've got, I believe, 21 men, from the judge to the mayor to the market president, Glenn Leverage at Central Bank, and everybody else in between. They're going to agree to go into a school for 1 hour a month and read to a group of boys. And the part of that thinking was some of these men they can't do once a week. As I told them at the chamber dinner back in May, there's not a person that can stand there and look at me and tell me they can't let go of 1 hour a month. So we think that's going to be a good program for some kids. A few other things I want to mention to you that I do every year. I name it. We voted on a partner of the year, and this year it was Catalent Pharma Solutions. Our volunteer of the year was Russ Morrison, who was on my board at the time and very involved with Bug. He and his wife have since moved to Florida. The director of the year was Ken Hogan. And just this afternoon, I presented my 2018 Educator of the Year to Ms. Susan Jacobs at Baker. I also want you to understand that we're constantly looking for other revenue sources, but I will not say how much I need until you get to item number 8 or whatever it is, but that concludes my briefing, and I will ask for any questions.
Very good.
All right, thank you.
Thanks to you, thanks to all your volunteers, and appreciate it very much. Big impact on our school system. All righty. Item number, make sure I get these in the right order. Number 6, enrollment update for the current year, Mr. Greg Collins.
I will say, once Mr. Yates went from part-time to full-time, the explosion was something we were hoping we would see, but what happened was even beyond our wildest dreams, and it's been fun this past year watching that grow. Our numbers, very seldom do we have this happen. We have a board meeting on day 5. And I had the choice of either bringing you the numbers here or waiting until September, but we didn't have a chance to upload it, but I wanted to bring you something just to be able to give you an idea of where we stand. So our numbers, as we stand on day 5, not including preschool, as of about 4 o'clock today, we were sitting on 5131, 5,131. 1,836 of those are elementary, 826 at the intermediate level, 861 at the junior high level, and 1,608 at the high school level, and that's a combination, of course, of those 3 entities with Phoenix Academy as well.
How does that compare to last year?
Last year, we are about 67 under where we were last year. That does take into consideration we did have several of our juniors graduate, so that was one of the first times that we've had a higher number of those that have graduated. We also are seeing right now about an average of 12 per day coming in to the school system. That will continue for several more days. We actually, we have several people who don't believe in enrolling, I think, until Labor Day. So we will still see a growth period with that up until Labor Day, and of course, there's a certain nature of it that's transient and fluid in that nature in and of itself, but we'll continue to add students as well. I can say, surprisingly today, all of a sudden we were sitting here, and the next thing I knew, we had 8 students and their families out in the lobby, and didn't see it coming. So those things happen on a daily basis, especially towards the start of school.
You know, we frequently talk about parents that are thinking about moving to Central Kentucky and the choice they have in school systems, and some districts are bulging at the seams and looking at potential redistricting. By and large, do we have room in all of our grade levels in the Clark County School District? If somebody's thinking about moving to Central Kentucky?
We do not. We, as it currently stands, we have several grades that are bursting at the seams. So that's a good situation in some ways to be in, because with the staff that we have several grade levels that are maximized. We also do have some flexibility in through there, but as the staff, with the staffing allocation, which is one of the reasons Mr. Christie had talked about what he did as well, that's kind of where we stand with that.
Let's take the high school for example. We have room at the high school. If somebody's thinking about moving here?
Yeah, we do. I mean, to answer the question, can we accommodate more students, building capacity size? The answer is yes. I'm answering the question based on like staff and classroom sizes, but at the end of the day, we have capacity to add for those people.
Based on the building capacity, we have room.
Correct,
Now,
yes.
It'll take some accommodation if we get that, but we've got room in our schools.
Absolutely.
So, which is, of course, some of the newer schools in the area.
And we saw, of the years that I've been doing this particular role, this was the latest I have seen so many people come in to enroll, to take care of a lot of things. This was actually the latest that I've seen. So in some ways, that could be a good thing too, that a lot of folks are deciding to come to us.
Sounds great, thank you. Item number 7. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you all have any questions to Mr. Holland on that item? Getting ahead of myself for number 6. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item number 7, Comprehensive District Improvement Plan Progress Monitoring. Brenda, sit down.
Good evening. You have a document that is we consider it a living document in curriculum instruction. And so I like to bring some progress monitoring notes for you so that you can see kind of some of the initiatives and where we are. And also, we'll begin planning the new plan in October. So I kind of just wanted to share some information with you. And hopefully you didn't have any issues with the document. This isn't my document. This is a document that's provided for us. And not sure if they're going to, KDE will keep it this year. Who knows? We'll just wait and see. But this is a document that I upload and I keep it in our archives in Advanced Ed.
As curriculum director, where do you plan to focus this year?
The Striving Readers Grant, literacy. We actually did a math audit, and so we will have to look at that. It may be too much to tackle both literacy and math at elementary levels, just because elementary teachers teach both content areas. But we're having those conversations with administrators so that we don't want to drop the ball on math, but we also know the requirements of the grant, and it is very extensive. So yes, we're going to focus on literacy. And I think literacy improves all content areas.
What are your strategies for gap reduction?
Well, one, if we do tackle literacy, we should see all groups move forward, because we're training teachers to be better teachers in Tier 1 instruction and to be more in-depth in their craft and teaching. And with that, anytime we receive training, we become better at what we do. So hopefully we can address that. But as far as actually saying that the Striving Readers Grant is going to fix our gap issue, I'm not sure.
Another thing that we're doing, we're using Title I funds this year. We allocated the Title I, and we're not doing the 100-day folks. We're doing individuals, full-time individual work with gap reduction, work on pull-out students, work with things there too, individualized there. Got someone that's a full salary that's focused on that to help assist me in every building. We're Title I in every building. That's another area that's a little different from what we've done in the past.
And if we help our teachers become better teachers, then they can address all the needs in their classroom, and everyone will feel success with that.
Considering the objectives, do we change the numbers, for instance, when our test results from last year come back? You know, we have the objectives set from 67.4 to 75.8 by 2018. Okay, when it comes back, if it's not there, then do we redo for a wider, even more possibly unrealistic?
Yes, and the state will set those objectives for us.
Right.
We do not arbitrarily pick a number.
Right, yes.
But
That's
they,
been that way
Yes.
ever since testing
Yes.
began. They set those.
and so what you don't want is to not meet your objective this year and then increase
Yes.
so that but it happens, and sometimes we are in the hole and we have to really do a lot to bring ourselves out of the hole. And we know that. And we have those conversations when we're working on school improvement plans at the same time that we're developing the district improvement plans, because we have to provide support so that schools aren't going deeper, but they are starting to see some success and some progress. I'm not really quite sure what those objectives are going to look like this year. I don't think anyone does. It's a moving target. I do think they will change again. It's the nature of the beast with education, unfortunately. It's nice. I remember in 2014, everybody was going to be at proficiency. Okay. We're way past that. And so what happened? We have a new target. It's now 2020, and then next year it'll be 2022. So we do everything we can at the local level to keep up with the state changes, and hopefully we're ahead of the game so that we're not behind it. What we don't want is to be behind the accountability changes and we're not prepared. But our role in curriculum instruction is to make sure that everyone is ahead of the game. And if you ask principals, most of the time when they go to meetings, do you already know what's going on before Katie rolls it out? I mean, I try to keep them up to date. So hopefully we can tackle that.
That's what you'll see in this thing we had, to your Senate, you're gonna see some of those discussions that comes from KDE that we're receiving before it actually goes out to teachers, because you're gonna start seeing that as we do.
A lot of your department people that you have relationships with, that you have worked with for years, are leaving. It's really hard to keep contacts and know who you can call upon to get good information at the department.
Or even information.
Or information.
If you call today, maybe
KDE.
tomorrow.
Yes, I was removed from a distribution list from the commissioner. They just decided they weren't going to have that distribution list anymore. So I no longer get the commissioner's emails. I'll let it be known I was not
Is the
happy.
I get it.
commissioner
This
sending, is the
this
commissioner
important
still
stuff, yeah.
sending emails?
Huh.
You still send anything.
Yeah, he said they usually arrive Wednesday.
We've not-
The Monday message arrives on Wednesday.
We've not had meetings with the commissioner.
But we will continue to keep this as a living document, and hopefully that we will, when we get our results back, we have met our objectives.
Well, this activity that I want to talk about, that's in here, but we didn't do it, is hiring our 7 writing coaches. That didn't happen. It doesn't appear that it's going to happen. So what becomes of that particular line item, if you will, in our CDIP?
Well, in the new plan, it will not be in the new plan.
But we will still address writing.
Yes, yes, it just won't be a strategy. We will address writing with a different strategy. And a lot of that will fall within your Striving Readers grant. And unfortunately, the grant doesn't provide funding for personnel.
And I guess in all fairness, the funding at this point is not provided for the set of teachers. So you can't hire them without funding.
Oh, no.
Just check.
I just put them in the plan.
Okay. So that, I just wanted to clarify.
Yes.
I would encourage you to continue to use SMART, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound goals on a district level, even if the state does not see the utility in that process. I think that's a true way to call it.
I agree.
We will.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Ms. Costa, thank you very much. Item number 8, consider approval of 2018 Good Giving Challenge allocation in the amount of $10,000. Greg Yates. Greg, before you come up, Mr. Huckins, let me consult with you on this. I'm a member of the Partners of Education Board because of when we did the organizational meeting, I guess 20 months ago, we picked the different committees we wanted to be on. Somebody needed to be on Partners of Education. I volunteered to be on that. Because of my position on that board, should I recuse myself from this discussion?
I don't think you have any personal proprietary interest in the activities of PI, such that it raises a per se conflict of interest for you. But if you want to avoid all appearance of impropriety, then I think the safe play would be to recuse yourself from discussion or voting.
You have some concerns also?
Yes, to avoid the perception of a perceived conflict of interest, I will recuse myself from this discussion because a family member is on the board.
All righty, well, we certainly always want to be, follow everything in the best possible way possible, so I'm going to pass it off to you, Ms. Ritchie.
No. Yeah, Ms. Ritchie, I'll move to approve the 2018 Good Giving Challenge allocation in the amount of $10,000.
Motion by Mr. Pearbo.
Any discussion?
I'm good if there's a
Oh,
second.
come on, we made them get up and walk.
If there's a second, we'll give it, so.
Was there a second on that?
Oh, it's actually, Greg, can you tell us a little bit more about this?
But we have to get a second if we see it goes forward.
more.
We have to have a second before it goes forward.
I'll make a second for purposes
Okay,
of
that's
discussion, but if I want to hear something from Mr. Yates before we
Okay,
call the vote.
that's good. I'm open for discussion.
I think primarily what you need to understand is, like he alluded to, is that we have had an explosive growth over the last year, and I see it continuing to grow. As an example, we have a part-time assistant who currently works out of her home because of 2 little kids, but we know that we want her to work more, and mainly what she does is apply for grants. I told you earlier that we're always looking for other sources of income. There was a grant, I won't say with who, with a local foundation. We thought we was gonna get back in the spring. It didn't happen. I've been told I might be able to apply again. It takes her helping me to put together those applications or those grant proposals. She's very good at it. And I think just to keep this program going, we need to keep it sustained at the level we're at. And we see that we will come into a really bad budget shortfall before the end of this year.
And that's the biggest thing, that's what I wanted to say too. This is, part of this came, one of the reasons we didn't set this within our budget was that, you know, with 5,000, we're asking for 10, is that we had no idea what it's gonna look like by the time we hired Mr. Yates in a full-time role, and by the time he shared the numbers with us, it was, the explosion had taken place, and we looked at the difficulties that we were gonna be running into financially, and so this is kind of why that we wanted to come to the board with this at this time.
Okay. Thank you.
No question.
I'm good.
Mr. Peridot.
I'm good.
Okay, if that's the case, then there is a motion in order by Mr. Peridot to consider approval of the 2018 Good Giving Challenge allocation in the amount of $10,000, and that was seconded by Dr. Kudak. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Can somebody get them out of the hall?
Oh, come on.
You're
Keep
over.
going.
I'll make another motion, what we do?
Make a motion to leave them in the hall?
No, I'll excuse her absence.
Oh, okay, there you go. Scott, a motion was made to let you sit out in the hall, and it passed 3-0. Sorry.
Can I just go home? Take a nap time?
No, we're gonna be here till 5 minutes.
We can take that here.
Up here.
All righty. Wow, you did a wonderfully time-efficient job there. Thank you very much.
Take a lesson.
All righty. Moving on, item number 9, consider approval of new threat assessment documentation and procedures. Lori Hall and Nikki Little.
Good evening. This is Nikki Little. He is one of our school guidance counselors, and I'm Lori Hall, one of our district school psychologists. And on behalf of our school mental health team, which includes our wonderful counselors, our school psychologists, and our school social workers, we'd really like to thank you guys for really considering our proposed threat assessment procedures. We worked really diligently over the summer to produce a model that is supported by research-based principles and also best practice guidelines. We feel our work will benefit the district as part of a comprehensive school safety plan and really best meet the needs of our students. So we're kind of here just to answer any questions you have about the packet of information and hopefully give you any details that you need.
I read it over, I thought you did an excellent job.
Oh, thank you.
You're taking something that could be very subjective and adding objective measures to it. Building administrators, principals, central office staff, people in charge are going to have to make some important decisions, and I think you've given them a good framework to make those decisions on a sound basis, so I appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Our goal was to try to make it really comprehensive and have a lot of research behind it to really make sure that we were doing the best possible job to assess for threats, since that's such a serious topic, so we can provide the best supports to the schools and also resources to students and their parents.
It's done with input of administrators as well.
Sir.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to, unless anybody else has any other questions, I'd like to make a motion to consider approval of the new threat assessment documentation and procedures as presented by Ms. Hall.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Dr. Hudak, second by Mrs. Hicks. Is there any further discussion on this item then? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0.
I'd like to thank these guys and all the counselors and all those that worked on this also.
We might as well give them a round of applause.
Dr. Hickman stay.
Yeah.
Consider approval of revised Title II Coordinator job description. Mrs. Scarlett.
Well, with the Senate bill that passed in April, a few things went away, which was our PGES, Professional Growth and Effectiveness System. It's back to just our regular certified evaluation plan. And then professional development funding kind of went by the wayside. And we had a job description that specifically had all that embedded in it. So it's kind of a cleanup of the document for the position that we had with PGES. So I know you've had time to look at it. We all worked together on this, Brenda and I, and it reflects, it kind of helps to have a position that's a job description for a while and then be able to look back on it later and realize where you do need to tweak them. So we've tweaked it a little bit. We think it's much better than before. Brenda, anything to add?
Kind of took the information from the Title II grant and used that to develop the job description.
A bit
That's
more
what's funded.
specific.
Yes.
25 pounds lifting is the paperwork that they carry around.
Questions?
All right. No questions then? Or a motion will be in order.
I move to approve revised Title II Coordinator job description as presented.
Motion by Mr. Farado. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ritchie. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you for your all's hard work on this. Item number 11, consider approval of part-time allied health instructor at the Area Technology Center. Mr. Michaels.
How y'all doing? I think I'm becoming a mainstay asking for stuff here, but this one right here, I'm not really asking for any more money. I'm just asking for the money that you all gave us with the EMT position. We were able to manipulate that and get a little bit cheaper person. So we were wanting to take that money that's left over and put it into a part-time position of our health sciences, because our health sciences is busting at the seams. I think a year ago, we were, Miss Cowan and Miss Abner were back here too, so they could preach probably better than I can. A year ago, when I took the job, our principles of health science was down at the middle school, which we were not supposed to be doing that because it has to actually be in the high school to be considered a credit. So we moved that back this year, and we were only able to get about 20 kids in that program. But if we get this position, it gives us a chance opportunity to bring 55 more kids into that program, which they're already waiting at the door right now. We're just waiting on this approval right now to get that done. If we can use that money to do that. The other thing is, as you all know as well as I do, our programs right now are pretty much busting at the seams. And I think I'm gonna be up here a few more times at some point in time in the next 2 to 3 years, asking for more, but you know, we'll address that from that point. But my goal right now is to ask that we use the money that you all appropriate for the EMT to take that and be able to give those other kids an opportunity to stay in the health science programs, because if not, those kids will be dispersed. We have about, like I said, it's about 55 to 60 kids that are not able to take the principles of health science class, and it gives us a chance to move Miss Cowan to teach an anatomy, I think, medical terminology, and it gives us a chance to get more kids in that too, so that it can get more certifications. Basically, that's the bottom line, to get more certifications.
Is the principal's class is it a foundation class for the
Yes, ma'am.
additional programs?
Yes, ma'am. That's the foundation class for all of the programs.
Okay.
The EMT, the phlebotomy, the medical terminology, the pharmacy, all of it.
The more you can get through that one, some more options the students have. That's different.
So explain in cover item number 11, it said it was a $14,000 expense. Is it an additional $14,000 or is it a transfer of what was allocated to the EMT desk?
Yes, sir.
So the net expense, I guess, is
Well,
zero.
you already approved this for $29,000 some change, whatever that was, $29,995. We use every bit of it except for $14,000 we have left over. We were wanting to take that $14,000 and use it to bring this teacher on board.
It's not the money, it's reallocated money it's already.
Yeah, we just
It's
wanted
still
to make.
offering everything that they said they were going to do in the beginning. It's not taking anything off the table. And that, by a cheaper person, it was more creative scheduling to allow that person the hours, tighten up the hours and tighten up pay up to teach just the EMT classes, which left a surplus. Instead of just leaving it as a surplus, they're asking to take this $14,000 to bring on another person that will increase the numbers in the program.
And, you know, the teacher that we got to teach the EMT, we didn't take second note on that. That person actually teaches the same class at KCTC that adults are paying for to do it. She actually teaches that class. She's one of the head of the state in it. So we just happened to get a good deal. She was doing this at part-time. She was off on Tuesdays and Thursdays when we had that class scheduled. It just all kind of fell into place.
Any further questions? Do I hear a motion on this item then?
I move that we approve the part-time allied health instructor at the Area Technology Center as presented.
Motion by Mrs. Dix. Second by Dr. Kudak. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilson, for your creative work on this.
Thank you all very much.
Item number 11, consider approval of design development documents from Ross Architects and cost estimates from Codell Construction for the GRC Fieldhouse and Athletic Fields project, also known as Phase 3.
That's item 12.
We've included some PowerPoint.
Hold up, hold
You
a
said
second.
item 11. You just did
Oh,
item
I'm sorry, it's 12.
It's
I
12,
blame it all on my bifocals.
the new ones.
I've got it in the budget for next year. Sorry about that.
Because you mentioned your bifocals, we have some printouts here we're going to hand out. We do have a PowerPoint we want to share with you, but these are just some printouts that you can kind of take a closer look at. We are very pleased to bring the design development documents to you this evening, and we're just going to share with you where we're at in this process. You know, we have taken the schematic and moved further along with it, and have developed the floor plans into elevations and started building sections. We've got a lot of the major systems identified, roof systems. We've been communicating with our engineers, our structural engineers and plumbing and mechanical engineers. Is there...
Do you have an electronic version of this that they could?
We do. Can you switch to the... Yes, that one, thank you.
Is that something that would be proprietary, or is that something we could perhaps share with members of the media who might be interested in publicizing this information?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, we can share the images. Let me just check with the office. I do want to get you a high resolution image. I always don't like it when they maybe publicize something that ends up a little pixelated or something, but yeah, absolutely, we can share these images with you.
Okay.
Go ahead and click the next slide here. So we're here for design development approval. This is the middle of the road checkpoint for your project. So with the approval of the schematics, we go into design development, and then the last phase before we go out to bidding is construction documents. So what this does is this gives us a really good opportunity to get into the numbers of the project. We're actually starting to quantify a lot of the materials and a lot of the items in the project. And so one of the documents that you'll be reviewing tonight is the BG3. The other document is the BG2, which has to do with kind of specifications and talks about the major systems of the building, and I'll go into those in a little more detail. The scope of the project, as before, field house in the center with the practice field right behind it. To the left, we have the baseball field, which will have home and visitor dugouts, as well as a concession stand, press box, and public restrooms. The softball field to the right of the field house and the practice field also will have home dugout, visitor dugout, concession stand, press box, and public restrooms. The parking lot that you see right behind the softball field there is already being constructed. It's a part of the stadium project. Go ahead and flip to the next slide here. We'll go ahead and get into the floor plan. There you go. So this is the field house floor plan, and the large green area is a larger volume, big open space used for practicing. The dashed lines you see in there are the areas for netting, for pitching and batting practice. The blue area off to the right is a weight room. Around the front of the building, you'll see the purple or lavender looking spaces on the front, and then off to the side, those are locker rooms and changing areas. Each locker room in the front has a little brown space associated with it. Those are offices for each one of the locker rooms. Each of the locker rooms has 2 showers, lavatories, and restroom facilities. And then on the left-hand side of the larger practice area are the changing areas. So there's a lot of flexibility designed into this space with the locker areas and the changing areas for different teams. Above the changing room areas is the mechanical room. Above that is a training room. And then above that is a large storage area. Moving to the next slide here, which is going to be the plans for the smaller facilities that are by the baseball and softball fields. You have a home dugout, which will have a changing room on the back side of that, okay? And also an office associated with it. For the visitor dugout, you have not a changing area, but storage on the back of it. So the storage is more for maintaining the fields. So in that storage area, you can be storing maintenance items for the fields. In the larger areas, there's also one of the storage areas that have been identified as an equipment storage. So a storage area for, when baseball season or softball season is not in, there's a place to store helmets and uniforms.
So the visitors, have we discussed before about the visitors not having a changing room, so where do they change?
That's correct. They could change in the field house. If you want to provide a space for them in the field house. The comment's also been made before that a lot of times they come to the games dressed. But the field house changing areas and locker rooms are close to the baseball field and the softball field. So if the district wanted to, they could utilize any one of those changing facilities or locker facilities for visiting changing rooms. On the right-hand side of that page is the the concession stand press box building. So on the bottom floor, you're going to have men's and women's restroom. There's going to be a mechanical room that separates those two restrooms, just for ease of maintaining the plumbing on either one of those restrooms. Concession stand, you'll have 2 windows, one on either end of that concession stand serving area. So you'll have one that's oriented towards the visitor side and one that's oriented towards the home side. There's also windows in the front of the concession stand area so they can actually watch the game. And then upstairs is the press box area. So if you scroll down just a little bit for me, I'm sorry, up the other direction there, yeah. So upstairs, you can go up a set of stairs there, and that's where the press box is. That's where your radio announcers, your newspapers will be. Sometimes coaches go up there. It has a set of 4 windows in it that slide open. So, you know, different announcers have different preferences. Some people like to hear what's going on out over the ball field, some don't. Go ahead and scroll down. Are there any, before we go on, are there any questions on the floor plans, or the scope is not really changed? I feel like we identified in schematics a lot, you know, the bleacher seating count, the buildings that are going to be built. Like I said before, this phase of design is really important for us as far as it really gives us a lot more insight into budgeting, quantities of materials. We feel like we can really kind of hone in on budget numbers, okay?
Well, do you think there's a need for any kind of wash sink or anything within the weight room proper? That's an area that there's a high incidence of staff, and it's going to be imperative for us to keep that area as clean as possible. So just
Put a hand
thought.
sink in
I don't, 'cause I
there?
don't see any sinks or any plumbing.
No, we don't have, we have 4 drinking fountains in there. It wouldn't be difficult to put a hand sink in there. It does have a common wall with a plumbing wall right behind it that those drinking fountains are on, so
That's
we
also
could add a
true.
sink there if you.
The other thing I was going to suggest, if you didn't put anything over there, then you're running, you've got the locker room on the other side, you're running plumbing all the way out there. So it makes more sense if you get more, it would make sense if you didn't have any sink facilities inside the weight room to have all the plumbing on one side of the building. So,
Right. Yeah, we can definitely add a sink if you guys want to do that. I think that would be a pretty easy thing to
so
add.
sink, and I don't know what maintenance we need to keep equipment clean. But anything we can do to decrease transmission of staff in that area is important.
Okay.
One of the questions I had was, want to understand how the size has changed. There was a document similar to this that I've got showing dated of July 5th, 2017. I don't know if you remember this one. It's where you had the weight room, the indoor practice area, and the arrangement was a little bit different over here. I calculated this one back last July was about 16,000 square feet, and we're approximately 18,000 square feet. In terms of round numbers, am I in the right understanding of where we were a year ago or 13 months ago and where we are now?
Yeah, and in terms of approximations, yeah, I think you're close there, and that was due to adding those 2 locker rooms onto the front.
Okay, so the addition of the locker rooms in the front, that's only about 2,000 square feet, give or take.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not like we went from 12,000 to 18,000 as, and then in terms of the reorganization of, that's all came from the research that you all did with all the various individuals.
Yes, sir.
And this same layout was presented to us there a couple months ago in terms of the general layout of the floor design, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just want to make sure I wasn't missing anything on that.
Hey, Mr. Heisel, can I ask you a question on the press box?
Yeah.
Is that a multiple use press box for both fields in baseball and softball?
Each one has.
There's one, there's an independent press box for each field.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I didn't get that.
if you want to go up to maybe scroll up to the top, yeah, so each one of these buildings, yeah, that one right there, so that one's associated with the softball field, and then the one opposite there is associated with the baseball.
I got you.
And each one has a set of restrooms, then a concession stand, and enterprise box.
The detail that we received, field house and athletics fields, so we have about 30 pages or something like that. It's also a large format over there. This is from last week. That's still, the intention still the same, 4% of our packet.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so that's what, the set that we dropped off last week, that's the set that we will be sending to the Department of Education for approval, pending your approval.
Okay. It seems like a path we might want to meander on this is to maybe take the large individual components and see if there's any discussion items on those. Maybe starting with the baseball field, the softball field, and ending with the field house, that's the largest portion of the dollars in the field house. As part of where you all are headed to on the proposal for tonight is that this document, this is the design document that potentially we would be approving tonight under this line item. Am I understanding that correctly? I want to make sure.
Yes, now that's the document that you're holding up that was placed in your packet a couple weeks ago, right?
But I think last week. I want to make sure on item number 12, the approval of the design development documents, what is included in that group. So for example, later on, if we have a motion that says, I'd like to approve the design development documents, seems like we need to know exactly what would be included in that list.
Sure,
Of design development
yes,
documents.
I got you, I'm sorry, yeah. So that would be those documents, yes.
This right here.
Yeah, those.
And what's sitting on the
that
table
kind of
is
large
the-
format,
is
yep.
the-
Those set of documents there, those would be the design development documents. You also have later on in your agenda, approval of the BG2 and approval of the BG3 for this project. So those are both Department of Education documents that are associated with the design development submittal to KDE.
Okay.
Okay, so how do there's a later item also that would seem to affect the design document?
It doesn't affect it, it's more associated with it or goes along with it. So design development documents, like when we say design development documents and we're preparing a submittal for the Department of Education, it would include the drawings that you all are approving, like Mr. Heisel was alluding to just a second ago, as well as the BG2 and the BG3. So all three of those documents are going to go to the Department of Education for approval.
But in terms of item number 12.
Just item number 12 is just
item
those
number 12.
documents, yes.
And then we also have, after we've discussed these items, we probably also like to get some input as part of this line item from folks at Godell as to what their opinion on the cost is, at least have a discussion about that. So going down that path, if you all think that's reasonable, talking about this document right here, 'cause that's on this line item, this agenda item number 12.
Okay, I guess I'm confused. Do the change order items that come later in the agenda affect the design documents when we're changing?
No.
So the recommendation to change some of the space from what it is now to become a shower, that doesn't affect design documents?
No, ma'am.
Different BG.
No, different project.
Different project.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Ms. Hicks, those the one you're talking about, item number 13 for change
For
order.
the gym, it's for the gym.
That's for the.
But none of,
yeah.
all of these are separate, right?
They are separate,
Okay.
yes.
So this is.
So if you want to, number 12, 20, and 21 go together. And then 13
Okay, and
and 14 are both the same BG number, okay?
Two change orders for the football stadium portion, phase two.
Okay. So item 12 then
Okay, just the
is
fields, just.
baseball, softball, field house, and practice field.
And it is your working drawings. It's actually the construction documents at a design development level. And we brought the renderings and some of the colored up elevations that we will not submit to KDE. KDE wants to see the actual hard line drawings that we sent you for your packets and are the large format that are on the table. Does that help?
So in terms of and we don't have to go down this path, but in terms of the softball and baseball field and practice field, we're approving on a conceptual basis right now to send to KDE for their approval, this particular design. So, I don't know, if somebody didn't like the way that the dugouts were designed, this would be the time to mention that, right? Okay.
I'm fine with everything as presented. I just would like to see a little bit more wash type area added to the weight room, which I think would be pretty easy to do, but I'm okay with everything as presented in this package.
Noted.
I got here early, took a look through the big documents because they're a lot easier in my eyes than these little things. So.
They're still living documents, right? These things can change all the way through the bid process, correct? This is just a process to keep it going, basically, what this is.
Well, it's
Anything
designed to make the construction documents,
Yeah,
right?
I understand what you're saying with there, and I think those things should be there. But just that there's a lot of changes that could take place when the bidding process comes through. That's really the final.
That's a good comment about
Yeah.
the living document, just like with Dr. Kudak's comment about wanting to look at adding a hand sink and maybe even a wash sink or some kind of utility sink
Right.
in the weight room. It's something we can develop as we move forward.
Right. You got plumbing on that side, it's a big open space, shouldn't be a big deal.
Right,
So-
right. And like I say, we're flipping through kind of the actual working drawings, and so you're kind of seeing the level of detail that we have KDE reviewing to demonstrate where we are. So like right here in this image here, that bottom right-hand corner, you can kind of see we have the locker room area, and that will allow us, we've already got water and sanitary lines over there, and so we'll be able to go ahead and get down into that area, maybe change that chase a little bit, and look at, run another drawing now. Yeah, I think you're, keep going up a little bit.
Yeah, I think you went to the next page.
What's the next page?
You got kind of zoom. There you go.
Down,
Now to
scroll
the right. There you
Okay,
go.
there. So see where we have the 4 drinking fountains that we were providing? We've got that chase. We could pull that whole wall forward some where those 3 toilets are and actually provide additional area in there for hand sink and utility sink to be in that weight room proper. So they could clean off, wipe down tape, wipe down the, the equipment, the, weight benches and everything like that. So that's, a good example of like you're talking about, Mr. Peridot, a living document as things move forward. We might get comments from KDE, and if we see anything that we'll bring to your attention and then look at that as we bring construction documents based on this approval this evening for final approval before we were turn things over to Codell to put together for, or as they put together their bid packages to go to the printer.
I had a question on slide A71, probably the last one in through. This is the reflected ceiling plan for the field house. There are two structures to go down the center of this. Hopefully we'll get over that here in a second. Now, I had a question as to what those are.
What was the slide number?
7-1.
A71. Yeah, those right there. Those-
Okay. That's the ductwork from your HVAC system.
All right, so in my mind, that's a critical question, is the 9,000 some square feet of the field house itself, is the intent to have that conditioned with
Now, let me-
fans and outside
Actually,
air?
let me
or-
rephrase that, because it is an exhaust fan system. So what that ductwork is doing is it's drawing air in from more distributed around the space, okay? And it's exhausting it out. Rather than having like an intake on one end of the building and an outtake or fan kind of exhausting air out, we've actually talked about putting ductwork down the space itself, just to help pull air from a few different locations inside the space and exhaust it out.
But in terms of providing conditioned air where we have evaporators and condensers and
Yeah, so-
expensive things that run electricity like that, is the intent to condition the air in that 9,000 square feet?
Only heating. Only heating.
I'm sorry, yes.
There'll be
certainly heating.
some unit
But not
heaters.
air conditioning.
In the weight room, we're talking about air conditioning it, and then the changing rooms and locker rooms.
And I suppose one could kick around the idea of putting some larger fans in there or something like that, but that just tweaks again later on.
What we actually are showing here, Mr. Heisel, is that, like Roland said, we're trying to, normally you would try to distribute air through diffusers into different areas of the space. Now what we're trying to do is actually exhaust from different areas by having the ductwork to pull different areas of the multi-purpose room out, instead of it being short cycle by being just whatever air is close to the fan going out the wall. And then we'll be bringing fresh air in on some louvers that'll go into the new space, but it's pulling air out through this ductwork. And then we do have some fans that are going to be up in the ceiling, blowing air down out of the ceiling, so we don't have that stratification of air. They kind of move air.
In terms of the roof design of how you're going to handle the water that's going to hit the building and pull that off, it seemed like that there's a little bit of a peak and a slope, but then it hits a vertical wall, and is there a drain that will pull that out? Am I understanding that from the drawing?
Yeah, if you want to flip to A 3.1. I think you passed it. Yeah, about halfway down.
Keep going.
Right, next one maybe? Next one. There you go. So get that, can you get that whole plan, the roof plan in the image there? So, Mr. Heisel, the center space, you're right, it pitches to the left and the right, so it has one ridge down the middle, goes to the left and right. And then there's 4 roof drains over the side areas, so that water's being carried down to those 4 roof drains, and then piped to an in-ground drainage system.
So a gutter and downspout that actually drains the roof of the high bay multi-purpose area, going down to the lower roof area where we have those internal drains.
Okay, so it goes from the high area to the low area, and then it goes out, okay? And you all are very comfortable with that not presenting a reasonable cause problem or anything?
No, it actually has, backup drains. So we have, they have emergency overflow drains that will, if the main drain does get stopped up, the secondary drain will carry the water out, and it will actually deposit the water on the outside of the building so that the school district knows there's an issue with one of the roof drains because there's water coming out the side of the building to go check it.
The next component of this agenda item is cost estimates. Before we move to that, do you all have any further questions on the specifics of the design that has been presented on that large format and what was in our packets? Okay. Well, let's talk about the current cost estimates that you all have. I believe that it's something that the construction manager also has worked on. And cost estimates.
Okay.
Have you worked on cost estimates for this information? Because I think it's
Yes,
part of the contract.
we did. I believe, I don't have it with me, have you got a copy of that? It was 7.3 change.
Yeah, 7.4.
Okay, yeah, so the BG3 is 7,488,552.
Okay.
You're referring to my Codel's estimate individually?
Yes, I want to make sure that what we had in here was the correct estimate. So that document right there is a June 8th, so then let's flip to the next one, the August 10th. It's the second, no, it's that same document, page 2 of binder. So your August 10th estimate, and this is using a broader brush, I think is a reasonable way to describe this, of what you think the budget is going to be. So you've taken a look at their plans, and you've run numbers on that, and from your all's perspective, since you all, that part of something that you all do, this is what you think the current estimate is. And again, it's just an estimate, it might be off, since you're dealing with broad brush, a couple $100,000 or something like that.
Going back through this, since I submitted this, one thing that I do not have included in there is irrigation of the fields for softball and baseball. So that is not included in that 7.3. That's roughly $45,000-$50,000 probably. And then I also gave a break, being we were already on the site working on phase 2. I put a break in the cost for the same contractors, mobilization and demobilization. So that's built into that as well.
Okay.
Probably $90,000.
And to transition from those numbers right there to the specifics that are in the BG2, without putting words in your mouth, this is more of a general estimate, and the other is getting down to nuts and bolts, and they're in the same general range, 7.37,
Yeah.
4.883.
BG3 is broken down more into not divisions of work, but site development, heating and air, general construction. This is more of a, larger lump sum for each piece of the puzzle.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm probably going to go into about a 5-minute discussion on this. Anyone want to take a break before we get into that? Richie?
Sure.
Okay. Let's take a quick 10-minute break, and then we'll get into some more details. So we're going to take a break at 7:57 p.m. Be back at 8:07. Actually, I'm sorry, I didn't do that.
Oh, did you?
Stuff, that's the only thing that pertains.
Is 8:12 p.m. We are back in session, and we're still on topic number 12. We had discussed the design aspect of it. I'd like to move on to the cost part. I think that's what we're about ready to get into. Was there any more design-specific questions that the rest of the board had? And so we talked a little bit about the cost. You had just we were on this document right here. I've got some concerns about the cost. Does anyone else have any comments about this before I go off? Because I'm probably going to allocate 5 minutes to myself on that, and I don't want to waste any more of the board's time than 5 minutes.
That's fine. I'll just point out that the costs for the estimate for this project, the current cost that's submitted on the BG3, which you're going to be talking about later, is in the same ballpark. So
It's what, I'm sorry.
the cost that was submitted on the BG3 is the same as what was on the BG1, so there's not going to be a significant change between those two plans. So I would not use the district facility plan as a guide for cost, because I was in the room and that was being discussed, and cost was never an issue. So those are just some numbers we put on in case the state had a lot of money left over and had all its other obligations funded and decided to fund school buildings, which happened actually once in my tenure. Probably never happen again, but those were the roughest of rough estimates that you're looking at here. So
Okay.
And after all, these aren't real numbers that we learned last week. Numbers aren't real.
Okay, so I'm probably in the minority on this, so again, I'm going to limit myself to 5 minutes. So we'll flip past the district facility plan, and I want to reference back to June 27th of 2017. There was this document that you all shared with us that had costs at this particular time. That was the second page when you all were doing an opinion of probable cost when we were right in the middle of the gym project. And this is at that time where we had an estimated cost in the field house of $1.968 billion. And I think it also corresponds to when we had 16,000 square feet.
That's, okay. That's unlikely, but okay. I mean, I can't imagine us having that 1.9, it'd be like $110 a square foot, so.
Okay, so, you know, we were at 1.9 last year. And let me share this with you all. I was just trying to track where we've been to on the cost on this. That's 1, 2, sorry. Anybody would like to take a look at those. So the baseball and softball fields, I always like to try to accentuate the positive. There's been some fluctuation on that. Facility plan was $2.8 million. The estimate I referred to last year is called $2.5 million. Earlier this year is $2.8 million, and Codell's broad brush estimate might be about $2.5 million. So give or take, the costs on that have gone roughly in about the same range. But the field house costs have radically changed since last July, last June. And from my perspective, it certainly looks like, because the path was chosen to go with a conventional building design for this, as opposed to when I look at other field houses in the state of Kentucky, at Highlands, and I think Logan County, perhaps put one in. The field houses I've seen are all using an engineered metal building design. Like over in Lexington, the indoor sports complex they have over there, it's an engineered metal building. And I'm wondering what part of the cost increase is because of the building design, what part is because the square footage increased, and what part is because of increases in steel that we've seen because of higher tariffs and other competition and contracting costs. Because it's, the other two looking line, that was like, it's really off the chart in terms of what the change is. And I know it's got to be some part of all those, and I've done that in 3 minutes and 6 seconds.
Okay, and so I would agree with you, it is some part of all of those. I mean, I would say that for softball, baseball, softball fields, baseball fields don't change in size.
Dugouts, we did add some square footage to the dugouts with the changing room and offices, and even some storage that taking place on the visitor side, so the dugouts kind of stayed symmetrical. Not a whole lot of steel, not a whole lot of, tariff materials involved in the fields themselves. When we look at the field house, I remember from having gone through this earlier, Mr. Heisel, that one of the things that the field house was based on at the time of the district facility plan was 1,200 square, or 12,000 square feet. It was a building like about 100 by 120. And so we put that together like Mr. Kudak's talking about. There was a broad brush, what size field house, what does that look like? And we had that, at like the $220 a square foot is how we got to the 2.4 million or something, or 2.8 we were at the, and so when we got into, and I don't know, I'd have to go back and double check and see how we came up with a 1.9 million in July of 2017, because when we started looking at this thing from a BG1 perspective and looking at the square footage, and I even bumped the square footage up a little bit, or the estimate up at the BG1 to try to take into consideration the soccer locker rooms that in fact have happened as a result of comments that were being discussed as a part of the programming when we were doing phase 2 for the stadium and the football field. So we were already looking at how can we make sure that we're bringing a realistic number to the table. And that's from a square footage perspective. So I can tell you that we went from like 12,000 square feet to like 16,000 square feet to now like more like 18,000 square feet. Costs are going up. I appreciate the board's trying to move forward as quickly as we can on this project so that we can take advantage of the fact that contractors are already on site, like what John Hagan was talking about as far as his cost opinion being 7.3, trying to take some discounts into consideration over the fact that people are there and we can capture them and keep them working and hopefully not mobilizing, having to remobilize, demobilize, and come back. Our number at 7.48, $180,000 difference with some of the different tweaks and just our modeling and how we do cost estimating, how he does his cost estimating. We feel like that's pretty much in the ballpark, and so the BG3, we used the higher number, if you will, that we had put together. He signed that with us as far as it being a document that we were bringing to the board, and it keeps us at that 7 point. We're still feeling comfortable at 7.5 million in the overall construction cost that's approved on the BG1.
Since we're looking at design documents, we're approving this particular design, and I guess we have the opportunity, if we want to go down the path and say, no, we thought about it, we don't like that design, the option to do an engineered metal building. Mr. Codell, I think you had done some back of the envelope calculations on that. I think you looked at the main component, the indoor practice area. If we did that as a pre-engineered metal building, what would be the approximate savings on it? And I know there's some design downside to having a duals.
It was about $110,000 difference.
And then the downside would be, in terms of if you had the center part one type of building and the outside being another type, there's some significant downsides to that.
One being, the thermal envelope is a big one. If you go, you're going to lose a lot of your energy efficiency with a metal building. That's a big one. Doing the center section, one type of construction, and the two wings, if you will, differently, there's going to be some, you're not going to be able to get just an off-the-shelf pre-engineered metal building. There's going to be kind of more of a hybrid, I guess you could say, of necessarily wouldn't be a pre-engineered metal building, it'd be an engineered building built with materials that a pre-engineered metal building typically uses. because you got to tie the three sections together. If that makes sense.
Right, this is a good shot here. I was asking us to bring up this. This is a section through, you can see the tall space as far as the multi-purpose, and then how much lower we are on the left and the right with the weight room on the right and the different changing room, mechanical space, storage and everything on the left. And so what we evaluated when we were looking at this is that if you're talking about having, let's just say with the weight room, weights in there, all the different activity, dumbbells, having a pre-engineered metal building with a exterior skin of a light gauge metal panel, insulation, the bad insulation, and then either a metal panel or plywood or some kind of abuse-resistant gyp on the interior, you have built in a whole lot of safeguards trying to protect that versus if you have masonry. And so if you put up the masonry, then you can use the masonry as load bearing versus it being a metal building,
Well, last June, the $2 million cost estimate, was that of a conventional style building?
Yes, we have never, in our estimates or opinions, considered a pre-engineered metal building for this field house.
Okay, so to make sure I understand how we move from those two, there's multiple factors. We have cost inflation for raw materials, steel being one of them, additional competition in the construction business, and then there's been an increase in size of the building through the process. Are those the three general factors that's contributing to that price increase? Am I understanding that correctly?
I'm questioning whether the $2 million, the $1.9 million is, I'd want to go back and see where that number came from or how that ended up in a document that you're using as being a part of a field house that was even at 12,000 square feet.
Okay. Well, we could go back in the facility plan, which is an even broader estimate from 2 years ago, that was 2.8 million.
Right.
So maybe we can use that as a starting point, 2.8 million.
Right.
Up to the,
And I have documented that when I've gone back personally and looked at that one and know that that was at the 12,000 square feet.
okay. So to go from 2.8 million to the 4.7, when you go from 12,000 to 18,000, that's obviously 50% increase, that makes up for most of it.
Right. That makes up a big part of it.
And the reason we're at 18 is because it was part of the whole programming process.
Right. That's a fair statement.
Okay.
We like the idea of the CMU being a load-bearing wall for the main multi-purpose area because of all the different balls and all the different activities that'll be inside there, whether it's, baseball practice, which will have the nets and everything like that, but when they're practicing, like infield practice, balls are gonna hit walls. Same thing with football, when they're, doing some drills or doing some things in there. So, we're not seeing this as being a space that has to be use kid gloves. I mean, we want them to be able to be abuse resistant. You can go up and look at the pre-engineered metal building that is the field house that's behind the baseball, field over at Hannah McClure, and walk inside and see what happens when you have exposed insulation on the inside.
So potentially a benefit to this design method is perhaps a longer building life.
Exactly. Yes, sir. Definitely. I mean, we're trying to design for a 40 to 50 year life, lifetime.
Okay. I know I've had some concerns. I've had folks in my district express some concerns. I want to make sure that it was well understood how we got to that particular point.
Understand. Okay.
All righty.
Any other questions? Like I said, the design documents or the details that you're looking at here that we have developed as far as our design development is going to the Department of Education with your approval. We'll get comments back from them on this. We're going to continue to move forward with the construction documents. Our goal is to have that in front of you for your September meeting. So that we are trying to blast this thing forward, to get this thing in Codell's hands, to get this out on the street and take advantage of, later fall weather to get foundations and stuff started because the pad is sitting there ready.
Any other questions, concerns, comments, etc.? there's not, then probably a motion, I'm sorry. Superintendent, sir, do you have any comments, concerns on this, and want to weigh in on it?
I'm fine with where we are on it. I think they've covered all the areas, and then in addition to the sink, to the hand washing sink tonight, I think we're where we need to be at this point. Once it goes to KD, of course, it's subject to KD's approval. At that point, and they'll get into the bid documents, still opportunities for change even at that point.
In terms of the personnel at the State Department dealing with facilities, have there been changes as there have been in other areas of KDE? Do we still have
No,
the same?
they're-
Is that a pretty consistent staff that'll move things
It is,
along?
I mean, we've got, Greg Dunbar's still there, that has been there for years with James and, and Gary, and then they've added Marcus Highland, so.
Probably the ones that we've worked primarily with is still the main, those three are the main ones that are still there. That's probably the most stable of KD right now.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, they're a little stronger than the legal department is right now.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, Kevin Brown didn't leave much behind, did he?
Well, if there's no further discussion, then probably a motion will be in order on this.
I move to approve design and development documents from Ross Hart Architects and cost estimates from Codell Construction for the GRC Fieldhouse and Athletic Fields Project BG2 18-334 pending KDE approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay? So I'm a nay on it, so.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Apologize for 6. So the motion passes on a 3-2 vote. The nay votes, Mrs. Six, and myself, and the aye votes, Ms. Ritchie, Mr. Peridot, and Dr. Hudak. All righty. Item number 13, consider approval of change order 17-3 to Greens Mechanical Construction for the George Rogers Park High School Gymnasium Athletic Fields Project, BG 16-238, in the amount of $5,761.15.
It's a change order request that generated from some of the programming meetings that was taking place for the gymnasium and football field stadium. The recommendation is that we add a shower in the officials' locker room at the football stadium site. Happy to entertain any questions regarding that proposal.
And you're going to change the size from 36 feet by 36 feet to
36 feet, so 36 inches. Well, actually, we're thinking about, allowing the officials and their entire families to shower at the same time. So stick with 36 feet. 36 inches by 36 inches, Mississippi.
Thank you.
You all don't happen to have with you all floor plans for that particular building, so we can make sure we understand exactly where this space is.
I do have an exhibit here.
Now, I couldn't tell that you described it, but I still don't have a sense of how large the areas remaining that you're taking the space from will be.
No, it was a follow-up question as to the size, and I think I responded 36 feet, so 36 inches.
And I thought, wow, what a shower.
Big shower.
So this is the area that we're talking about, that was where we had a smaller locker room. We had a deeper changing area here for officials in this one bay. And so we shortened those up, still have room for the locker rooms and changing. And then we created on this hallway a opportunity for them to get in here and, wash hands, take care of business, and even take a shower if they want to. So this is what that ended up looking like in the revision.
Has that been shared with us?
Unless it was part of the change order it's a backup document, as a proposal request. This is what we use to send to the contractor to get pricing on.
On the attachment?
Attachment should
You can open up what I sent to the transmittal. It's still on there. So that would be it.
If it was part of the proposal, it should
No, it had a whole bunch of other stuff, but I didn't see the schematic. It's in my
I
packet.
think we had the pricing on it, but not a.
It has the pricing and the calculation of materials and labor, et cetera.
Well, I apologize, that was where we are issuing a proposal request to the contractors through Codell so that they can get that out to like Green Mechanical, the price, the idea of adding that shower and the plumbing and the water sanitary associated with it.
Yeah, that breakdown seems to be here, just
Okay.
not the schematic.
Yeah. And so it should be in the board pack. I mean, what we're talking about is the board packets.
Board
packets?
packets.
Board
That
packet,
item right in your
change for
hand.
these, on the agenda items, just this change order as far as what they had received and.
So the image should have been.
Should be the first one that we're on, this change order.
17.3.
17.3, yep, the next. So it's just a question of whether we included the proposal request. That was where this document was generated so that they would know. Now, the good news is we didn't change any, we didn't add any doors. The doors were already there. The doors, everything stayed in the same place. We just moved a couple of walls and then in order to be able to add the 36-foot shower.
Had you already put the plumbing in? You guys have jackhammer some stuff out to get the drains in on this?
No.
No?
Gotta catch up this.
Catching that ahead of time. So then I guess the question is, Mr. Stump, perhaps, have you spoken with Mr. King from the athletic department standpoint? Are you all happy with this? Lieutenant, are you happy with it since we haven't had a chance to study that drawing? Okay.
Do most schools have shower areas for the officials?
Right now, when we use our gym, they use, if it's a boys game, they'll go to the visiting girls team locker room, they use that locker room. And there are some who will take a shower. Not every official, not every football official after a football game will take a shower, but some will. I mean, some of them that come in are muddy, a game, and they want a shower before they get in the cars. It's a pleasant night, maybe they will, maybe they won't. But that's why the conversation was just for one shower.
Right.
But if everybody wants to take a shower that night, they just take turns.
Yeah, if everybody wanted to, then they would have to, or open up one of the other locker rooms or changing room over at the field house for them to be able to use. That's kind of how that conversation started when we were looking at the changing room at the field house that we just saw, was where we were trying to provide a location for, I explained to the staff, it's actually more of a glorified restroom. So think about having everybody lifting weights and needing to be able to use the restroom. We weren't going to put them in an actual locker room as much as having them be able to get into that hallway and go into the men or women's restroom and be able to have, wash the hands, do the business. But then we thought, well, this is one location where we could add a shower if you had a teacher or staff member that was going to lift weights after hours or, after school and they wanted to take a shower, they could. If you had officials coming in for softball, baseball, because with the warmer weather and the sweat and everything associated with that, they were talking about where would we be able to have that, and we're so far away from the stadium. We're like, okay, then we'll do that, we'll add this extra shower. And then we added the showers and locker rooms for soccer, and then we went back and revisited what was over at the football stadium and said, hey, we've got this restroom, can we add a shower?
I guess later on, since it wasn't provided, if you would just email that to.
I don't mind having, we'll do both. Here, you can take this copy, and then we'll go ahead and get that emailed to Donald so we can get that distributed.
Did anybody want to see the specifics of that?
Yes.
And I guess the shower materials will be the same material as what we have in all the other showers in this place, right?
Yes.
Solid resin.
26th, certainly take the time you need to look at that. Is there any other further questions of
So the
anybody?
space that it's coming from, where were these lines before? You know, is it coming from here or from here or from both?
Mostly, this was a larger changing area, and we had the toilet and shower, or toilet and sink, just in this one area.
You're carving out the shower out of the existing officials changing room.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, correct.
Just makes that area
Correct.
smaller,
Okay.
by 36 by 36.
Inches.
Inches.
That's correct.
All righty. There's no further questions or discussion, then a motion will be in order on this item.
Move to approve change order number 17.3 to Creed's Mechanical Construction for the George Rogers Park High School Gymnasium Athletic Project BG 16-238 in the amount of $5,761.15 as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
No.
Okay. So those two opposed are Mrs. Hicks and Dr. Kudak. And motion passes 3-2. Item number 14, consider approval of change order number 19-5 excuse me, for the George Rogers Park High School Gymnasium Athletic Fields Project BG 238 in the amount of $99,187.50.
This is a proposed change order for the same project, the gymnasium football field or football stadium project, and it's more specific to the football field. It is the shock pad that the board had reviewed or discussed in a work session previously. If you'll recall, I think late came in and brought some samples, shared with the board, and you asked us to bring this back to you at some later point. And we actually generated some figures and numbers. Put this on the agenda for your consideration. One of the questions that was generated from the board was, could we bring some samples to show the board, again, to recall our discussions and typically the square footage that we're considering and potential cost for that shock pad that would go under the turf field on the football, including the soccer area on the football field. So, having said that, I think they have samples to show you based on your request.
Let me give you a quick recap. The Lath is much better at that than I am, so I apologize that you're having to put up with me. He's taking his son to Western University, Kentucky University today. So this is the artificial turf. This is what we call as far as the carpet goes, okay? And it is like any other carpet. It is actually threaded on the back side that you can see where the material, the green, comes down through there. You also, when you flip it over, you see the holes in the bottom of that pad because it's draining, okay? And this right here, this carpet, if you will, the artificial turf, goes directly on a gravel compressed DGA as a base. And it lets the water filter through this and on into the gravel and into perforated pipe that carries the water away, which is why you can be on an artificial turf field right after, during, whatever, any kind of thunderstorm. Now, what I have in my hand here is tough. This is a crumb rubber. And so what you're looking at is that this crumb rubber with and sand typically are mixed together, and they would go in. Yeah, take a look at that. What they do, Miss Ritchie, is they broom this or groom this up, and they put these pellets into the carpet. And you put that in there, the water gets in there and is deep enough that it becomes the cushion, okay, for the impact that people tackling, and you're really on a gravel base, okay, a stone base. But you would have this crumb rubber inside that, okay? And so that with the sand mix, and everybody has a little different ratio as far as that rubber to sand mix. So the one thing that we're talking about, and I want you to understand, the University of Kentucky has a field similar to this with nothing but this pad directly on the rock with the crumb rubber and sand mix in the turf, all on top, okay, all on top of the turf. When you talk about taking the pad now, the pad will go down with these, like, if you got a chance to see these slight drainage channels that are here, it'll pad down, turf on top, and now you still will have some rubber in the fibers and also sand. And what typically happens is they'll tweak that mixture to put a little more sand, a little less rubber, because you have the impact resistance of this cushion. What Leif was trying to explain when he was here is that, look, right now, most people are doing exactly what you currently have bid, and it's totally, appropriate in terms of the field as it's been bid, and you can say no to this change order, no problem. He wanted to bring to your attention that this is the newer technology that's coming out. And I'll tell you, from my perspective, having listened to him discuss this, it's probably got two benefits. One is that this is uniform across the field. No matter where you are, you'll have this thickness of this shock pad, in the center of the field, out on the edges of the field. When you have the crumb rubber and you start playing, unless you're appropriately grooming the field and maintaining the field and keeping that crumb rubber distributed and keeping it even, you'll get locations where it might be more worn, okay? And so one of the things that the industry likes about this is it's the consistency of it. I think they like this because they get a little more money, because now you're paying for this pad, which is a whole lot more expensive than just a bunch of crumb rubber and sand. But now you have this uniform across the field versus having a place where it gets warm, or just a normal play week in and week out starts pushing and creating, particularly in the center of the field, places it won't be as thick. The rubber won't be as thick. So if somebody does go up, gets their feet cut out from underneath them, trying to catch a ball, come down on their shoulder, they impact, you're always going to have that pad in that location regardless of how much rubber is on top. Okay, does that make any sense of what I'm
But
describing?
it doesn't replace the rubber sand mixture, does it?
No, it does not.
It's the stuff on top.
The
will
stuff
still
on
be
top
the same.
stays, right. Like I said, there may be a little tweak to the mixture because they can count on a lot more impact with this rubber pad, so the crumb rubber can go down, you can put a little more sand. The only thing from an athletic standpoint is it might make the field a little faster because you're gonna have a tighter sand mix in the turf. So when somebody tries to accelerate or run down the field, the feet won't be as cushioned, or it's not going to give as much on the top.
The particular material that's in your left hand, is that a ProPlay EcoSport shock pad?
This one is, yes.
And that's what's being proposed, correct?
Mm-hmm.
On their site, they indicate that this shock pad can be used in replacement of an existing drainage subbase. And how do I interpret what they have on their website? Are you all proposing to replace any part of the subbase?
Not at all, not at all. No, that's news to me. Like I said, if Leif were here, he could answer that better than I will tell you that when some of that has happened, if you don't have the proper drainage underneath there, you're going to end up playing on a flooded field. So, and you cannot let your field flood, because then all it does is it raises all the rubber and it just starts flowing across the field. So we are very particular about how the drainage of the fields is actually handled. In fact, that field will be laser graded. It's that precise that they will have lasers to get the right slope on the field. So depending on the type of pad you're talking about, or what kind, I can't imagine how they were talking about changing the draining structure, because you still have to have a way to get that water into a perforated pipe and off the field.
I don't either. I went to their website to try to learn more about the product.
Okay.
That's what it said, it made me scratch my head.
Mm-hmm. Now, the only other thing that I want to be careful about, I'll share, and it's a common sense thing that nobody is actually extending a warranty about, is that when you put this pad down, it's good for, like, say, two carpet cycles. So if if you expected your carpet to last, 8 to 10 years, okay? Now, one of the things is when you put the carpet down over the gravel, and it's on that gravel that's a little more abrasive versus this pad, you'll see, or what the conversation is that the backside will start to peel, or you'll get that broken fiber, and then at some point, this lets go. Okay? Because you're on that gravel. If you do this, then when you're running the field, walking the field, doing everything, it doesn't have that abrasion that you have to mean that there's conversation about it extending the life of your carpet. So whether that ends up being going from 7 years to 10 years, from 8 years to 11 years, a lot just depends on everybody and how you groom it or how you maintain it. But it's not a requirement in any way, shape, or form that you spend this money.
Does the base, the pad, affect the warranty of the other product?
No. Right
And
now,
it
there's
does-
there's nobody offering an extension on this product because of using the pad.
Excuse me, the development of this pad was strictly for entry. Is that what you're saying? That's the way that was, of course, it's not been out long enough to have any kind of studies or anything like that. Secondary, it could make sure the duration of the carpet
Could help the
lasts
life
a little bit
expectancy
longer.
of your carpet from the
Other
backside.
thing, did you state that you would use less of the rubber?
Less rubber, more sand. I mean, we actually had a conversation.
What I'm
with-
saying, the only reason why I say that, because I know if you watch, college football or anybody plays on turf, every one of them got on safety glasses, they got on shields, and most of that's because of those flying rubber pellets that are out there. And I just think if you reduce that a little bit, then that's another safety feature that you've got of the
Right.
fields with.
I know Leif talked about the fact that people were using coconut husk, kind of a thing as a more organic versus the rubber, but it's still going to be a pellet that's going to get,
But the push right now in football is to try to make it as safe as possible. On that, and that's what you're looking for in this
That's what
plan.
that's what this
That's
is
what it's
about.
developed for, right?
I will tell you, and I shared this with Donald, and actually talked with Leif a little bit about it. In 10 years, it wouldn't surprise me a bit if when you replace your carpet, you would want to come back and put this pad down in 10 years as a result of where technology or where things have gone. I will tell you that, we will probably, in the course of the next 2 to 3 years, start making this the basis of design, just because of the safety factor and the idea that it's consistent across the field without having to worry about the maintenance and the grooming. So from a design professional perspective, it's nice if you have something that you're making a little bit more user-friendly. And it's going to be always there, okay? And regardless of how, now that's not to say that you still don't want to groom your field. In fact, we have actually in the base bid, you're going to get 8 years of grooming from, the installer. And they're annually going to come back and deep tine and groom the field to redistribute and, clean it up. So.
Well, let me put you on the spot then, Ron. All right, I'm your customer and no money situation at all. And I don't ask you anything. I tell you, I say, Ron Muir, I want your company to put me down the safest football field we can for that, and I'm not going to ask you any other questions. Would you put that down, or would you go the other way?
I'd probably put this down. If we were doing it today versus when we bid it,
I just asked you and said, I want you to put me in the safest field you possibly could.
And I've opened 2 of these fields. I've been principal of 2 different high schools and opened 2 of these fields, okay? We never did use the pad, okay? Does the pad have anything to do with the impact test that you gotta do every 5 years? Because have they proven anything on that? That would be one of my questions. The other thing is you're going to have to, as you do the grooming, you're going to have to add more rubber to it no matter what, period. What you got, because the grooming is the life of the carpet. I'm just going to tell you, because we went through that. We had a lot of rips and tears in ours over at Madison Central because we didn't do the proper grooming. So that's the key. But my question would be, because that impact test is
it's about, don't hold me to this, but it's about anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 that you have to pay for to have that impact test. That impact test, it gives you that safety, that license to do that. Because if you have a lawsuit against you, a kid breaks their neck or gets paralyzed, they're going to ask you, they're going to want to see that piece of paper. Did you do the impact test? So, you know, just some food for thought. The pad, that would be one of my questions is how does that come with the impact test?
Right. And like I said, I wish Lake were here. The one thing is, I know that Lake and I were talking about the different types of tests. I know GMAX is one of the new tests now. Here's what happens is one distributor has had the testing done with one agency and somebody else hasn't. And so we're always looking for some edge to get somebody to say, oh, we want this to meet the GMAX, 30 or something, and then that's fine, except now somebody else is like, well, I don't have that test. So you put that in your specifications, now they can't bid it. That's where they're trying to win on the side of the manufacturer. Like I say, that's why I think it's going to take a little bit of time for this to become, I think, the industry standard, and Lake has shared that this would be a direction that we would go because of the safety implications of it being uniform across the field. I agree with Mr. Wilson that you're definitely still going to want to, you still have to maintain your field.
And you've got to maintain it more than just when they come once a year to do it.
Well, now,
Right.
most of the places, when you buy that carpet, they give you some brushes. They give you a big thing that you pull behind it and you brush it. And we always made our football coaches do it. But you're going to have to add more rubber to it no matter what you want. You're going to add rubber to it probably a year. So, I mean, I would think even a pad would help. I mean, I was just logical thinking. I would think every bit of safety you get, because you don't want a kid to be paralyzed or anything like that. So, and it can happen.
We had a conversation about, well, if you put the pad in, does that mean you can come back and take some of this rubber out or lower the height of your turf? And we're like, no, because if you're talking about longevity of the actual carpet, you don't want to be all of a sudden start cutting this down, then it's guaranteed that you've now shortened the lifespan. And so the labor of just the original purchase, and then the labor, it's not worth whatever little few dollars you would save trying to lessen the height of your pile. So,
In the current areas, it will be difficult for me, and I won't come out against the safety of our students. But in doing the research, this product, it's been around. It hasn't made its way here. So
This is what they put under the old style AstroTurf. Pretty much the same thing, right?
I can't answer that.
So this specific product is they make a ProPlay shock pad and a ProPlay EcoSport. They reference on their site. There's like 2 high schools that had this in 2015. So it's not like we're on the bleeding edge of technology. I think it just has finally made its way down here, and hopefully we'll be on the preferable edge for it. Question: if we wanted to fund this out of the general contingency funds, is that possible? And the reason I'm asking that question is because of the money we had sitting on our account, the interest we earned last year was a heck of a lot more than our budget, and it's certainly way more than the $100,000 cost of this. Is there anything that would prevent us from funding this out of general fund contingency? Okay, I just want to make sure technically nobody can think of any reason why.
I just don't know why we would, but I'm open to listen. But,
Why would we not fund it out of construction contingency?
To preserve construction contingency.
We'll still have close to
That's what it's there for, Scott.
I'm not really sure. I think
Yeah,
this is
actually,
a
it's
design
on the-
change as
it's
opposed
included
to
in the
something that
package.
came up.
I think remaining of $989,000 if you approve this work, which is just short of $1 million would be remaining.
I would prefer to keep construction money and construction money. Not be dipping into general fund for this. So.
well, let's put it this way. If you find something else that you want to spend monies on, it puts you in a negative situation on your contingency. You can always increase and put more general funds toward that contingency.
I'm not planning on
At that point, right, I understand.
All right. Item number 14, any further questions or discussion on this item?
I don't know, looking at that, I'm not sure that that's going to be a real, I can see safety. And so I'm looking at things correctly. That's the same type of pad that was put under the original AstroTurf. So back in the 60s when they couldn't grow grass inside the Astrodome, they put concrete down, that, and then a carpet with a real small shag on it. So I think it's going to definitely give you a faster surface. The soccer players might like it more. You know, if lacrosse at the school, they would probably like it too. At the safety, I think, is related to the way the kids play and how they hit each other and how they interact. So
It looks like
field
this,
is the field.
It looks like this particular product just came about in 2012. Again, I'm not conversant.
I don't know. The other thing is if you can change the composition of the fill to more sand, less rubber, I think that's a positive. So.
For what, $1.23 a square foot? Does that sound about right? 80,000 square feet on the field. Sounds about right.
Okay. Is there a motion then on this item 14?
I move to approve of change order number 19-5 for the George Rogers Clark High School Gymnasium and Athletic Fields Project BG 238 with an amount of $99,187.50.
I'd like to second that. So we have a motion by Mr. Peridot, a second by myself. Any further discussion on this item? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, so that motion passes 4-1. The dissenting vote was Mrs. Six. All right, item number 15, consider approval of pay application number 1514-20 to Ross Tarrant Architects for the George Rogers Park High School Gymnasium and Athletic Field Project BG 16-238 in the amount of $9,287.91.
This amount is consistent from month to month now.
I move that we pay our architects, so I'll move to approve application 1514-20 to Ross Tarrant, the GRC High School Gymnasium Athletic Fields Project, BG 16-238, in the amount of $9,287.91.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ritchie. Any discussion on this item? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Item number 16, consider approval of pay application number 18-29-03 to Ross Tarrant Architects for the George Rogers Clark High School Field House and Athletic Phase 3 Project BG 16-334, the amount of $45,450.40.
Primarily for the design development documents you just approved earlier in the meeting.
I move that we approve pay application 1829-03 to Ross Tarrant Architects for the GRC High School Field House and Athletic Phase 3 Project, BG 16334, the amount of $45,450.40. That's a tongue twister, right?
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Peridot. Any discussion on this item? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Item 17, consider approval of pay application number 8 to Codell Construction, contractors and suppliers for the George Rogers Clark High School Gymnasium and Athletic Field Project BG 16-238 with a total amount of $848,102.39. The details, of course, were in our packet. Any question on any of the items that made up this item, this agenda item? Okay. If there's no further questions, is there a motion on this item?
I move to approve pay application number 8, Codell Construction, contractor suppliers for the George Rogers Clark High School Gymnasium Athletic Project BG 16-238, a total amount of $848,102.39.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ritchie. Any discussion on this item? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Item number 18, consider approval of reimbursement for the electrical license fee and local permits payments to Codell Construction for the George Rogers Clark High School Gymnasium Athletic Field Project BG 16-238 in a total amount of $10,617.
I Codell went ahead and funded those building permit fees through the local building inspector's office, and they were asking for reimbursement of those fees. I think, Mr. Hustle, you might want to just add a brief comment or two regarding your discussion with Mayor, or how this might be potentially reimbursed to us.
Yes, so per local ordinance, they have a chart that specifies exactly what the building permit fee is. And in the case where this is being inspected by the state, they allocate by ordinance a 50% discount in that, and that's what was required. And so to be able to fulfill the paperwork of getting a permit on this, that's what the city required in this particular case. As some discussion occurred during the last 7 days on it, the question came up of, well, is there any flexibility on it? I had a conversation with the mayor, and then had a conversation with city manager Matt Belcher, and they're going to research to see what the history is on this type of fees. One, to see if it was charged on the high school, and if it was in fact charged on the high school, then the next question is how much local time and expense is really being required of our local officials on this. And if the answer is minimal, the impression I have is they would certainly be open to an overture on our part of the commission to see if they could grant a waiver of part or all of this fee. But for right now, you all are out the money.
Right.
And it would seem logical we would want to reimburse you for that. And if we get to a point in time in the future where the city commission says we would like to grant a waiver on it, and then they would refund part of it, you all seem like pretty straightforward
Yeah.
folks. You'd rebate it back to us, right?
Absolutely, and I will say this, their involvement is pretty minimal. It's a state building inspector that does the inspections. You have a local electrical and plumbing, but the state building inspector does the inspections.
Okay. Do you all mind if I continue to run down this path to see if there would be any flexibility on the commission's point of perhaps discounting this fee to the school system? Do you all object to me continuing down that path? Because I don't want to venture too far off without your all support.
No, but I was going to ask Judy a question. Do you remember this item coming up on previous building projects we've done?
We paid some fee, but we did with WMU and some water things. I remember in
Yeah, I
the
remember
construction
that.
of the high school, there were some water things. And when we set a meter, but they came out and set temporary meters and some things, and there were some fees, and I don't remember.
There's been some sheer, we had to get one, we went back and looked.
I don't think
Campbell, we did not.
So why here and not there?
I couldn't answer that question. I asked that same thing. It was-
But definitively, you all went down there and said, we'd like to finish up the paperwork on the permit, and they said, you owe us a check.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
I don't know. I would think it would be part of the project cost, but.
Do you mind if I ask the commission for consideration on this? I mean, I don't want to do it if you think we should.
Does pursuing that preclude our approval of this tonight?
In my opinion, I think we need to reimburse our
I agree.
contract
So what
on
you're
this.
wanting to do will not affect action that we take here?
Right,
Okay.
right.
I don't object to your doing that, as long as it doesn't affect us going ahead and approving this tonight.
I think per ordinance, the fee is due. The planning and zoning said you owe the fee. You all very kindly paid the fee, so we can not be impeded in terms of this. And my opinion is I think we need to reimburse our supplier on this.
The electrical permit was $25, there was another one that was 10.
Yeah.
But the building permit itself was the biggest portion, 10,000 and change.
There's
Who
not a lot-
levies the permit?
The city.
Didn't we
Randy
have that
Wisdom.
for the high school though? I thought we did.
I mean, you get into this business of one governmental agency basically taxing another, and that's not legal.
Well, if it did happen, it was just something that.
Well, I don't think we would have had one in the city, because at the time we were building, it wasn't until after the build that they
Annexed the
annexed it in. So
Right.
it wasn't in the city. I remember we had to deal with WMU on some water issues.
There's not a line item on the BG that pays this, so it would have to come from your contingency.
I just don't.
Well,
That may be the reason, I don't remember, maybe at the time it was not in the city, and that's why we didn't have to deal with this on the high school proper.
But the fact remains, went down to planning and zoning, said, we'd like to finish the paperwork on the permit for this project, and they said, fine, yo's this fee.
Well, started the conversation, we were trying to get an electrical inspection. He said, well, I'm not gonna give you your electrical permit because your building permit's not finalized. So I had to go down there and take 2 sets of plans, the whole deal. So, and it's some formula based on square footage of the product, total cost of the project, that's how they figure that amount.
My thinking is we need to reimburse Codell for this, and then I think you all said it's okay for me to continue to explore to see if there's part of all this that could be potentially adjusted at the discretion of either.
I think it's an issue because it's one governmental agency essentially taxing another. Mr. Alkins, you can speak to that if you want. I mean, we're not directly paying a tax, but I'll start levying some fees the city and county have to pay. I got no problem with that, so.
I think you raised an interesting point, but I think you drew a correct distinction. It's not actually a tax.
Right.
Service fee.
And I think they're open to that discussion. But I think right now we ought to reimburse Codell.
I move that we approve reimbursement for the electrical license fee and the local permits payments to Codell Construction for the George Rogers Clark High School Gymnasium and Athletic Fields Project BG 16238 in the total amount of $10,617 as presented.
Okay, motion by Ms. Hicks.
Second.
Second by Mr. Paradell. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Number 19, consider approval of pay application number 14 for Performance Services Incorporated for Guaranteed Energy Conservation Savings Project BG 17-178 in the amount of $284,728.50. Donald Stump.
As presented. Any particular questions, I'm happy to try to entertain.
Did they perform within the time frame that they were contracted for?
And we're doing punch lists, Don will tell you more about that, but had everything up and operational. We're doing punch lists, they met today, doing walkthroughs, just taking care of any loose ends.
It's an ongoing process. I mean, we're trying to finalize, but we're probably, weeks, possibly a month or so before we can finalize the project with our punch list. And, we fire up air handlers on top of shear next week. Simcoe coming in to fire those units up, and we've already been working and walking through the buildings on punch list items that the building principal and staff and our staff are identifying throughout the buildings.
Okay, so y'all think they did what they were supposed to do at the right time, right?
Good on this.
Questions, concerns, comments? Okay, is there a motion on this item then? I'll make a motion that we approve the pay application number 14 for Performance Services Incorporated for the Guaranteed Energy Conservation Savings Project BG 17-178 in the amount of $284,728.50. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Paradell. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Number 20, consider approval of BG 2 for the George Rogers Clark Fieldhouse and Athletic Fields Project BG 18-334 pending KDE approval. So this is the BG 2.
Your outline specifications, entering design and criteria documents. I think Roland offered.
Yeah, if there's any questions, I can help answer those. This is BG2 is a standard KDE document that we submit with these projects, as well as the BG3, both the design development phase and the construction document phase. Some things to maybe take note of are the proposed alternates. We have 3 alternates that we've identified. One being the owner-preferred masonry.
Can we change the spelling of owner?
Judy? You're absolutely right.
You'd be happy, I've already circled it on mine.
We will fix the spelling of owner before we submit this to the Department of Education.
So the 3 alternates, where are these listed on here? Make sure I
Right at the
top, front page.
The on.
Oh, you mean like right where it says owner? Hang Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Number 1, 2, and 3.
So what do you all mean by owner preferred masonry?
Yeah, so
what's the difference there?
what we want to do is give you all the opportunity to be able to pick the brick that goes on this building, as well as the split face, just so it matches the stadium building. So we're just going to be asking for a price from contractors to match the brick.
And indoor synthetic turf in the field house, I mean, wasn't that the idea the whole time? What are we all getting out of that?
Yeah, so the indoor synthetic turf on the field house is, would be kind of the playing turf. And the conversation got a little complicated, so we ended up kind of pulling it out because there's varying depths to this. We want to go back, I think, and have a discussion with Mr. King, with the school district, on what the expectations are for baseball and softball practice area. Just because if you go with a thicker turf or a thicker material, that can get expensive. So it's affecting the cost of what's going to happen in the project. So right now, we just chose to pull it out as an alternate. If we find out that a thinner turf is okay, we could probably put that back in the project. But for right now, we just wanted to kind of take it out of the equation of our cost.
So you're pulling the whole turf out, or you're specifying, here's a particular type of turf, and then asking for alternates from there?
Yes, yeah.
No,
Which
we're-
one?
Okay, the Department of Education wants us to have multiple vendors in order to have competition. So that's kind of why you're seeing that masonry owner preferred, because we will have 3 different, 4 different, 5 different kinds of brick or stone. And then we have, and one of those will be what matches, or what is exactly what you have in terms of the belted brick and everything for the high school. So if somebody wants to bid a cheaper product, but it's not a good color match, the alternate allows you to decide that it's worth it to spend another $3,000 to change to the brick. Okay, now, same thing here. When you're talking about an alternate, we're, like Roland described, we're looking at the different types of pads and trying to come up with what pad is the right pad in that venue, because it won't be this at all. Okay, there won't be any crumb rubber, any sand, any of that. It'll be a pad that is like an AstroTurf, to go back to your example, that just has AstroTurf and a whatever high density pad under it, affiliated with it, attached to it. And you can get varying thicknesses as to what you want to do in there.
So is underneath the indoor practice area, the 9,000 square feet, is that a concrete slab under that?
Concrete slab.
Okay, like 3 or 4 inches thick or something?
Right, 4 inches thick slab.
Okay.
So if the proposed alternate of the indoor synthetic turf in the field house is rejected as we go, what is the covering other than concrete?
You will have the concrete, and then you'll have the opportunity to come back and do, you're gonna see that price, and you can come back and do whatever sport turf or whatever finish you
Okay.
want for that. We've actually had some that ended up opening without anything fancy, they just ended up with, concrete. And then I know when we did up in Carroll County, they actually got the artificial turf out of the Cincinnati Bengals practice facility at Georgetown and put it down over the concrete after they'd been in it for a while. And it was a budget-driven thing,
I think a G-Max not going to look very good on a concrete slab, though, will it?
Yeah, we're not talking about people pack what they're trying to
Be like 0.
Yeah, yeah. So yes, we would bid that, and one of the nice things about that as an alternate, it's very clean, in that it can be its own bid package even. We're talking with Codell about whether we put that with someone and have it as an alternate, or whether it becomes almost like a separate bid, and then you can decide whether to take it or not take it, because it's not, depending on the manufacturer, the pad that you actually get.
And what's the additional equipment in the third alternate?
So additional equipment, there's just been some things that were asked for in programming that we're wanting to check on pricing on, such as the outfield. There was some outfield panels for the softball, baseball fields, rather than doing like a vinyl, graphic that you usually see on softball fields, kind of the holes, the air holes cut in it. This would be a more resilient, solid product that would be placed out there. What were some of the other things? We were just getting some items that were equipment items.
Like for instance, on the district facility plan, we didn't have 4 batting cages, drop-down nets, or pull-up as a part of that price. And now we're looking at like, okay, not 2, not 3, but 4. So both softball can have 2 and baseball can have 2 and be in there at the same time, or any one sport can have 4 different batting cages going, or, and so depending on the caliber or the cost of that, we're looking at whether we make those fully automated, where they can push a button and they just raise up, to be to the bottom of the structure. Some are made where you actually lower it, drape you bring it up, you drape the fabric manually over the bar and then raise the bar up. So there's all these different levels of equipment that we're still researching as we move into construction documents. That's where we're not really ready to go to bid yet, and trying to consider all the different options and have conversations with Mr. King and the coaches over, okay, what's this look like, And so that was where the equipment was a line item that we would have that would be kind of a safety net if somebody gave us a really high price. It's like, no, we can get that cheaper ourselves and buy it out of contingency, or buy it, under state contract or whatever. But we were wanting to include that equipment like that in the bid, so the project would be complete.
Very well said.
Any more questions on this, the BG2?
I make a motion to approve the BG2 for the GRC Field House Athletic Fields Project BG 18334 pending KDE approval as presented.
Your second?
Second.
Motion by Dr. Kudak, second by Mr. Peridot. Any further discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. So that motion passes 4-1. I'm the dissenter. Item 21, consider approval of BG3 for the George Rogers Clark High School Field House and Athletic Field Project BG 18-334 pending KDE approval.
It's your statement of probable cost. I think Mr. Merle referenced the $7.488 million as being the higher end of what they wanted to include on this particular document in comparison to what John Hagan presented to you in their cost estimate. So, statement as proposed.
Is this the document that says GRC Gym on the document list? 21I. 21I, Mike, is it saying BG3 GRC Gym 1829?
Yeah.
But when you open it, it's not the gym, it's the field house and athletic fields, which is what we're voting on, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, this is.
Let me make a note here. This agenda, there was some confusion on my part. It was on the original agenda draft to have this BG2 and BG3 on there. I thought there was some missing information, so I took it off the agenda. Then once I realized that the information was there on Friday, it was put back on. So if there was a typo on naming that fault, that might be. I just want to just want to clarify how that probably happened, because it was a late change due to my misunderstanding. The bond discount, there's a $12,500 difference on one of the estimates. I think there might have been some traffic about today. What's that $12,500?
You responded to that answer about adding that. There wasn't a particular line item.
There was a line item on the BG1 that had that listed, and there wasn't a line item on the BG3, so I included that into the bond discount.
I think it's for the bank rating fee.
The bank rating fee on the BG.
Bank rating fee on BG1 is a line item that is not available. And these documents that KDE in their wisdom has set up as templates we can't touch.
They're very wise people there. Item number 19, I think on a prior BG1, the commissioning fee was 0, now it's 30,000. Was that an oversight of the original BG1?
Yeah, I mean, what we're seeing nowadays is housing, building, and construction really starting to enforce these energy codes, and as a result, we're having to get some testing and balancing on the buildings that we weren't before. So yeah, the commissioning fee is to add some commissioning to the building for just to check the HVAC equipment, exhaust fans in the building, to make sure they're operating properly. Lighting controls, HVAC controls.
We actually did commissioning on the high school because of the size of it and just the complexity. For this, we probably did not originally include that, but like Roland said, Housing, Building, and Construction in Frankfurt is actually cracking down on compliance with a part of the regulation that says that the district has to, or the owner of the building has to do basic commissioning. So that's why this item, that's why we've added this,
Any further questions, discussions, etc. on this item? If not, then I'd like to make a motion to approve the BG3 for the George Rogers Park High School Fieldhouse and Athletic Fields Project BG 18-334 pending KDE approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Perriello. Any further discussion on the motion that's on the floor? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Is there any consent agenda items that y'all would like to have pulled out to discuss individually? All righty. Well, otherwise then, I would like to make a motion to approve items 22 through 35, more specifically stated as item 22, consider approval of George Rogers Park High School bass fishing team participating in the Bass State Championship on Barren River, September 14th and 15th, 2018. Number 23, consider approval of George Rogers Park High School football team to visit Purdue University on September 19th through 20th, 2018. Number 24, acknowledge KDE accountability update. Number 25, acknowledge Booster PTO support club agreements for 2018-2019. Item number 26, acknowledge Booster Sport Club fundraisers. Item 27, school fundraising request. Item 28, approval of employee leave of absence. Item number 29, acknowledge the notice of personnel action report. Item number 30, acknowledge the Clark County motor vehicle tax report. Item 31, acknowledge the Clark County Sheriff's report. Item 32, acknowledge the monthly financial report. Item 33, acknowledge the general fund budget summary report. Item 34, acknowledge the contingency budget report. And item 35, acknowledge the balance sheet report. Is there a second on that? Thank you, Mrs. Six. So the second by Mrs. Six. Any discussion on those items? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Is there a motion on item number 36?
I move that we authorize payment of salaries and accounts payable.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Ms. Ritchie, motion by Mrs. Hicks. Any discussion on that item? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. Adjournment. Does anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
That motion by Ms. Ritchie. Is there a second on this?
Second.
Dies for lack of a second. Come on, guys, we got another 3 hours.
All righty, second by Mr. Fairfield. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes 5-0. It is 9:27
Before
p.m.
we get away tonight, I've got the budget resolution here at the end, so we're gonna sign it. And then there's
Is that a black,
another
is that black or blue?
It's black.
Here's a blue one if y'all like blue.
All right, sign it. Large blue. That's all I had. And I also have one, I still need